Hold up. Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's Keel Dyke, and welcome back to the channel. Hope you guys are all having a great Saturday. It's a nice morning outside. So I have some special guests with me today. I have some of the leaders here in the Retropie community. Today we have Damaso, we have Wolfonoz, and we have a member of the Supreme team. And so the reason for this video and the reason why I wanted to do it impromptu is because you guys really haven't heard from us as a vocal group in the community. And usually you are relying on information from others in the community who really have no idea what in the world we're doing, or they're not familiar with images, or not familiar with builds, because there's a lot of work that goes into it. Now, aside from that, we are going to talk a little bit about Arcade1Up, maybe talk a little bit about the sinden light gun. If you guys are wondering if this is going to be the release of about Supreme Ultra, forget it. We're not talking about that today. It's still not coming out right now, but I will keep you guys up to date. Yeah.
Not coming out yet, man. What?
Yep. So we are going to talk a little bit about some other things in too. So we're just going to kind of stay on track. But we have Damaso, we have Wolfonoz, we have one of the members from the Supreme team. And so I'm going to just ask them to say hi for just a brief moment. So if you guys want to go ahead and say something.
Hey, Keo. It's great to be here.
Damaso, thanks, man.
Hey, it's Wolfonoz. How you doing, brother?
Hey, did you get that script I sent you?
Yeah, I don't read scripts, man. Sorry.
Oh,
I'm illiterate when it comes to scripts.
Oh, my bad, man.
Sorry about that.
And we also got Team Supreme here as well.
Yeah.
Perfect.
I'm the one that can read scripts.
Oh, perfect. Well, it's definitely nice to have all of us here together. For those of you guys who may not know, if you're new, we've helped usher in the first Retropie build or images for the Retropie 4, so we've been with it from the start. If you guys have any questions or concerns, now is your time. This is your place. And so the first topic of concern that I definitely want to talk about, Damaso, tell us a little bit about your new nostalgia image and everything, all the work that you put into it. I see that it's up on Arcade1Up already.
Yeah, went up yesterday. Main differences pretty much is just the bigger size. There's more games on it, and a lot more work was put into open bore and getting Sega Saturn to work, which mostly the credit has to go to Wolfonoz for that.
Okay. Oh, thank you, Wolfonoz.
Hey, man. That's what being a community is about.
The funny thing is, as soon as that image came out, I had an influx of the messages in the Supreme inbox, and they're all, is this new image Ultra? It's like, oh my God, here it starts.
Now, here's something. On the very first post, when I posted about the image, I put it right there. This is not Ultra. This is based on Beta 4. Do not think that it's Ultra. And people are still asking for Ultra.
I don't understand. Like, it's clear as day. The build is not Ultra. It is Beta 4, which is basically Pro. It's the very last beta before Pro. And the Beta 4 that you actually used was the final Pro version. So technically it's just Pro.
Right.
Yeah,
I think a lot of it is tied up to people just being excited and waiting for it to come out. I mean, we have been hyping it up a little bit, and people have been watching my channel. So, I think in all honesty, is just the hype behind all of it.
No, that's understood. It's just that, I put it out there plain as day that it's not Ultra, and people are still thinking that it is.
Oh my God, yeah, that's so true. You state that it's not, and I'm even getting messages, and all the other Supreme guys are getting messages. Like, the main Supreme guy, he actually logged out of the main account because he was like, this is just crazy. Like, he says, what did Damaso do? Did he say it was Ultra? Because they're like, where is the marquee script? Why is it missing? I'm like, oh my God.
Right. Well, you guys will definitely have to wait. So, but you guys will get an official announcement. Trust me, I'll spam it all over the place when it is released. But so Damaso, what is the difference between this one and your previous version?
Well, the like I said, the main difference is the newer open board that wasn't there installed. Also with help from Word Dirty Gaming, that it boots directly into the game. There's no second sub menu that you have to pick the game twice.
Right.
And the Sega Saturn, and a couple of odds and ends. Newer games, other bezels, just a couple of tweaks here and there, just to make everything run better.
Okay. Yeah, I see Arcade Punks has already uploaded and they posted a video. Thank you, Arcade Punks. I know they don't get a lot of credit in the community, and people are sometimes scared to use their name in the forum, but we all know people go there to download stuff from them, but they should definitely get more recognition and credit for what they do. So.
Yeah, of course. I mean, they help out the community tremendously with their forums and such, and posting our images. They're really good. They're the best.
Oh, definitely. So, Wolfonoz, are you currently working on any projects? Tell us a little bit about either what you're working on or some of your previous images and things people have said and on reviews about the work that you've done in the past.
Yeah. I'm working on a terabyte image right now because I don't believe in partitioning out, packaging up images. I mean, that is for some people, but I'd rather put it all in one place. That's just how I work.
Right.
I have been working on that, and I'm up to about 90 platforms on it.
Oh, perfect.
Why don't you release a base at 30 gigabytes and say it's 4 terabytes, but it actually isn't?
Someone's actually done that with an image of mine. They took one of my 32 gig images, made it a 64, and there was nothing on it but like one more ROM or two. And yeah, it's ridiculous. I didn't even realize it was out there. Someone says you just put out another image. I go, no, I didn't. Unless someone took it and they added like 1 or 2 ROMs that apparently weren't on there, and I didn't.
Sounds like someone familiar.
Oh yeah. You guys may not realize this, but what happens is a lot of times, let's say Damaso Wolfanoz or anybody in the community puts out an image, and then let's say they make a few adjustments or tweaks. And honestly, there's nothing wrong with that. But as far as what people do, the only issue is that it comes back to the original image maker or developer when there's problems. So let's say, for example, I put out an image, I call it image A. Person gets it, they make some configurations to it. So instead of calling it image A1, 2, 3, or 4 or something like that, it's still listed as image A. And then people run to the original image maker or dev saying they got problems with it. And we have no idea what changes would have been made, what's been added, what's been taken away.
Very, very, very great point.
And the issue is that if it's not working, you guys are looking at us as though we did something wrong. And so I'm not going to talk too much about some other new things that was coming out, but just to let you guys know, the Retropie community is really only a handful of guys. I know some people may think that it's an army or that it's a company affiliation. Please keep in mind, all of this is hobby centered. This is guys working on their own free time, putting out something for the community, and developers are all hobby based. There's no requirement or expectation if something works or if something fails.
That is so true, Kyo. At the Supreme team, we hear it constantly. Actually, almost every day we have an inbox. The Supreme team only makes base builds, and we make that very clear. We make base builds for the public, and there's no control of what people do with it, right?
Right.
And then someone will load it up. Like, I'm not hating builders in any way, because obviously it's going to be modified in different ways, right? But when you have someone message you and say, oh, I downloaded your base image, it's 128 gigabytes, and this game's not working, and I'm sitting here like, I feel bad, but I can't help you. Like,
right.
You know what I mean? It's like I'm troubleshooting everybody else's problem. Like the Supreme team, you should hear the guys talking. They're really frustrated because there's people out there that download that it's just a Supreme base that someone modified, right?
Right.
And did all their tweaking to it, and because the tweaking was done, they think it's our fault that it's not working. You know what I mean? It's like me taking a base build you made. I add you know, let's say I had a splash screen that's all glitchy because it's a 4K render. You should know this.
Right.
And it won't play. It's all green screened and all stuff like that, right? And I'm blaming you.
Right. And that's the purpose of this video today. I don't think it's been done before. I don't think all of us have actually been on a chat all together. So just so you guys know, a little bit of clarification, there are many YouTubers who have put out reviews on videos, on images and builds, but none of them have actually gotten their hands dirty or rolled up their sleeves. And so what happens is the community thinks that these individuals have an understanding about how something works, and they truly don't. Just one of the things that we were talking about earlier today, as far as one of my things that has really concerned me, is I've recently seen a number of light gun videos come out. Some of them have showcased Supreme builds. Some of them have just gone over light guns in general. And for those of you who follow my channel and give you guys clarification, I've tested all the Supreme builds and images for the Pi 4. Most of the ones for the 3B Plus. I've assisted with Damaso Wolfanoz as far as talking about which emulators run best as far as which light gun games work. And there's a lot of misinformation out there. And so sometimes what happens is, I may come along or somebody may say, hey, well, you're trying to discredit or, whatever somebody's saying. Some of that's actually true, but it really helps when people do their homework. I gave somebody some information about a week or two ago, told them how light guns and stuff work. And then I saw a review and you could tell this individual didn't do any homework. Simply being is because a lot of the older arcade ROMs, even though most of the stuff with the Supreme Pro that Wolfonoz put together, and Damaso, did you put any light guns on your images for the Supreme basis?
There is a couple light gun games in like Dreamcast and in the arcade classics, but it's just to use a controller.
Okay.
I'm not gonna put light gun games for the light guns like the aim track or this and that, but because I don't have them, I can't test them, and I don't like putting something out there that hasn't been tested by me. Right?
That's an excellent point, and I'm glad you said that. So the reason why. So looking at this, when I've talked to Wolfonoz and some of the other guys or whatever, they ask me like, hey, as far as light gun games, what's the best emulator? All of the Supreme builds I think that have been released have all the arcade games either defaulted to MAME or MAME 2016. And so I've seen some videos and people putting tutorials out there suggesting that you should use them, and they're using Supreme builds. I mean, that's, my cup of tea. I know it like the back of my hand or whatever, suggesting MAME 2003 or saying that all you need is MAME 2016. And the issue is a lot of the older ROMs, let's say like Duck Hunt or what's the name of that Western game? Well, I'll say a lot of the older ones still require MAME 2003, 2003 plus. T2 works with, Terminator 2 actually, works with MAME 2010. And so you have people asking question after question because that's technically not a defaulted emulator where you're going to get a lot of gameplay from these emulators. Most of them will work with MAME 2016, but then of course some of them need customization and they're not expressing that. What do you guys think about this? I mean, actually looking at it from the community standpoint, because you guys are in the groups and you guys see all these questions. Hello?
Everybody's silent.
I know everybody's silent.
well, I'm quiet because, like I said, I don't deal with light guns.
Right.
So I really can't answer the question.
I dabble. I do play around with light gun settings. I mean, I don't have a light gun yet. I'm still waiting on it. The sinden especially, but I mean, I do play around with the settings, and I can see where some can get frustrated with it. But quite frankly, I mean, especially with aim track defaults to advanced MAME.
Right.
And unfortunately, with advanced MAME right now with the Pi 4, it doesn't work.
Right.
So, and that's just because of the version of Raspberry OS right now. So, I'm sure that eventually the base of it will get upgraded, and Supreme will take care of that as well. But that's the frustration with that. But people don't realize that you can set it up in MAME too. I mean, it's not just advanced main. Depends on the ROM versus the emulator that it uses. So, I mean, I can see where some might be frustrated by it, but, you know, you got to kind of, unfortunately, it's not at the point yet where it's just, you know, it's automatic.
Right.
It's just, you know,
yeah,
it takes a little work.
I just think from my standpoint, when I see videos or reviews are going up, because it's the community and people are free to say whatever the hell they want to say. But I think like our goal, my goal is to give people clarity and cut down on the misinformation when they haven't dibbled and dabbled in certain things. Because
people, you know, that have everybody do, you know, as far as making a base image, they have other people do the work for them.
True.
You know, and that's that they won't either don't know how to do it themselves, or they just, you know, will have someone else do it for them.
Right.
You know, it's just how it is. So.
And the Supreme team, we don't really deal with light gun games, because we don't deal with games pretty much at all. But it's kind of funny how the Supreme team built the first installer for. I know it sounds strange, but we don't even own the hardware. We made a fully working installer. Isn't that kind of strange?
Yeah. So obviously, for those of you guys tuning in, the Supreme team added the first. I don't know. Would you call it? I guess you can say it's official. Sinden light gun installer for Retropie. So
there is a manual like a manually way to do it, like where you go to the website, you download the program, you give it permission, and then you run it. But the Supreme team always thinks of people, you know, that are very new, right? No one's gonna want to download a bunch of programs on their computer, and then give all these permissions to a bunch of files, and then run this. And it's just nope.
Right. That's so true, because I know one of the instructions for the Sinden light gun, as far as putting it on the Pi device, you have to use putty. And I can be honest with you guys and tell you, since I've owned my first Raspberry Pi back in 2018, I have probably only used putty about 4 or 5 times. Wolfonoz, Damaso, how many times would you guys say that you use putty?
I use it pretty frequently, just to go through scripts, just to see where I can change things around or update things. But yeah, pretty much anytime I turn on my Pi, I'm playing with it at my PC. So,
Damaso?
I use it once in a while. Basically, just to quickly throw in the script, or just to see how much room's left on my SD card, really.
Right. And see, my main focus is, as far as some of the stuff that I've covered on my channel, as far as what I do in the Retropie community, I couldn't get a lot of help. I was in a lot of groups, and you ask a question and 2 or 3 weeks go by and nobody would ever ask you. And so I started reaching out to some of the devs, and, you know, guys like Level 1 Online and people who actually knew what they were talking about. And so I was like, well, why would I be in these other groups, you know, when I could just hang out with some of these guys and, you know, get my information from them and get some accurate information. And so that's where my passions come from. And some people have asked me, like, Kia, why are you doing so many Retropie videos? And I was just like, well, it's something I'm good at. And as far as the Pi 4, not everybody has an image at the time. You know, I was working with one of the first actually base build, some of the new tech and stuff that comes out. And so I only can go back to my first experiences and how hard it was for me to get the hang of things. And then passing that on to the community and people who follow my Patreon and all of my other groups and people, just, you know, you guys out there, is to help you guys out, prevent you from getting frustrated and being misled and send you down the rabbit hole, when you could just got some simple information and make things a whole lot easier for you. But one of the things I also want to make sure too is that people realize the work that Damaso and Wolfonoz and also the Supreme team does, is because there are things that could possibly take you hours or days, and they really simplify everything for you. And so I wanted to invite them, obviously, on my channel too, was to just express our appreciation for them, because they don't get a lot of it. You know, you see people, you know, sometimes I personally may say, hey guys, can you help out, donate some money to somebody, or can you get involved, or, you know, subscribe to their channel. And, you know, there are people in the community selling images and selling bills and stuff, but at least something that says some type of gratitude.
Causing troubles.
Right.
They're the ones that are like sending people to the the groups or the forums saying, yeah, I got this image from eBay. The guy sent me to this page to get customer service. It's like it's free.
Are we naming names?
Oh, if I was to name names, it would never end. There's so many people. You know who the evil ones are in the group and in the forums, because they just give themselves up, right? They'll be like, oh, how do I do this and how do I do that and how do I put it on the card like this? It's just like, you're giving yourself away, buddy. You're giving yourself away.
Yeah, I have 10 alt accounts.
Yeah. 10,
right.
20.
Well, I you know what? I could tell you about one of my first experiences dealing with an online seller. So I had a guy, he kept messaging me, and this was back at the end of 2018, I believe it was. And so that's when I really started posting more YouTube videos consistently. And I think at that time I was more or less at a place like, ooh, if somebody messages me, let me help them out. You know, it gives me a chance to grow my subscriber base and be nice to somebody and all that other stuff. But lo and behold, you know, a lot of times you get messages from people and then they unfriend you or they don't need you anymore. But I spent a lot of time with a couple of people. I'm talking about like over 3 hours going voice phone calls, trying to work out some issues. And so apparently they had a concern. They bought a ready-made pie image. I think it was a 3B plus image from a company. They sent it to them, and then they said, well, if you need help, go to Retropie official group and ask for help, you know, from there. And so I'm like, well, I don't know what image it is. I can't tell you what settings it has. I don't know what's been manipulated. And then if you have a bar top and you have buttons and cables going all over the place, I don't know what your hotkey is. I don't know what your official start button is. I mean, there's stuff just literally all over the place. And especially when it goes into a bar top, you don't know what's connected to what, especially if it has, I think this person had like 8 or maybe 12 buttons on their setup. I can't remember what, you know, how many it was. But the company sent the individual to the group and expected us to help them out, and they weren't willing to provide any customer service. So that was my first go around with somebody actually selling a pre-made image, and they weren't familiar with what they actually had. And so you guys see how troublesome can be a bit. Wolfonoz, have you dealt with something like that on your own?
As far as selling or what?
Customer service, where people bought something online and were asking.
Oh yeah, I've gotten messages via the Arcade1Up forums in various places about, oh, how do I do this or that? And yeah, I don't have a problem helping someone else set up, you know, certain configurations or whatever, but you know, that's it takes someone too that's going to sell your image and put it on that platform. But that's another whole, you know, other subject. But
it's such a headache, man.
Yeah.
Like, people don't realize, like, it's almost all the time, man. I keep repeating, I'm like, the Supreme builds are free. Everybody gets the image at the same time. Oh, then why does the betas go out to different people at different times? So they can test it to find the bugs. No, they pay for it. No, they
quite frankly, we do more QA than Arcade1Up does.
Oh my god, man!
That's just a fact. I mean, you're going to put out a popular game with the fire button that doesn't work or that's not configured properly on the right side, where most people are played with left-handed and fire with the right. And that's not, you have to flash a firmware update to fix that, or totally have to send you a new board.
Yeah, I don't even know how they're actually fixing that. I did know that John D made an announcement about that.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of his anyway, but yeah.
Yeah, I'm glad that they actually, you know, acknowledged it really quickly. But, you know, Mike, I think we've talked about this before, and you guys are buying a $500 unit. It's $500, $400, $500. And I know P-Dubs put out a video, and so, you know, I know some of you guys may look at us and say you're YouTube reviewers.
Yeah, P-Dubs just asked, where's the flash fix? I agree with him. There's no fix yet.
There's no fix yet. Thanks, P-Dubs, for chiming in. So here's my problem, P-Dubs, and I'm glad you're here. My problem is you are still a customer, okay? You are still subjected to a return policy, and your return policy should not be exhausted while a company is trying to figure something out. You should get an item as it's working, fully working as it's intended. And then if you like it or don't like it, then if it's up to you, you should have the option to return it or keep it based upon its full working functionality. Not have your return period exhausted. I think Walmart return policy is like, 15 days now or something like that. It should not be exhausted while it's currently in your possession. What do you guys think? You guys agree with that? What are your thoughts on that?
I would take it. Quite frankly, I would take a sledgehammer to it and take it back to Walmart. If something doesn't work out of the box as intended, as it should, that's not on us. That's on them.
Right, exactly.
The return policy is horrible. They're telling you can't bring it back. No, that's garbage.
It's like back then. I can't remember what it was. It was a product. I believe it was a TV. You know how back then video games had channel 3 and 4, right? And they were coming out with these new flat screen TVs, and then channel 3 and 4 weren't showing up in the menu.
Yeah.
And it was a firmware issue. Could you imagine something like it sounds so familiar, right? It's something
quite frankly, it's sad that John D has to reach out to ask people to be QAs. They should have had this from the get-go. You have a product people are spending $400, $500 on for maybe 3 or 4 games. And they're not getting something that's functional. That tells me they're just blowing through these things, going, yeah, whatever, and then they ship it out and then have all these problems. They put no QA into it.
Did this have to do with the Pac-Man thing? I heard that there was
so
many variants.
We're talking about the Super Pac-Man cap.
Yeah, Super Pac-Man.
Now, P-Dubs, what is the return policy with Costco? I heard that they have a forever return policy, but what is their return policy specifically to Arcade1Up?
Yeah, that's a good question because I haven't.
Because I've been told that they'll take back shoes or whatever from the past 20 years and stuff like that as far as Costco. That's what I've been told. So what is their specific return policy regarding gaming and Arcade1Up stuff? So we'll wait for him to chime in on that.
These socks don't fit no more.
I want to say it's 30 days.
You want to say 30 days?
Yeah. Yeah, where is he? Come on, P-Dubs.
Yeah, Peter. Okay, we'll wait on him to comment on that. But
he's looking. Okay.
Okay, yeah. So, but I will say that is a good policy or a new program that they're starting with Arcade1Up as far as having the new Q&A. Honestly, I think that should have been introduced a long time ago. And so I think maybe the voices at corporate are listening to say, hey, some of these guys, they're not trolls. They're not haters. Maybe we're just informed individuals that want a good quality product, and we're just looking at it from a technical standpoint versus coming against the company. Because most of the time people have actually said that or seen that in the groups. And you're talking to people who are just familiar with stuff.
I think for old electronics, though, that are coming out about, that are very expensive, should have an extended period of warranty. Because if you're a founder and you go in there and you buy it and you get a garbage product, it should have a year return policy because you're the first one to get into it, right?
I think that's kind of standard. We'll
for
see.
example, for the Xbox 360, the original model, you know how many variants they went through the regular console without even telling people it changed?
True, very true. So P-Dubs just commented. He said the electronics at Costco have a 90-day return policy. So that's good.
That's fair.
That I think 90 days is a good return policy, so I think that's more than fair.
Good deal.
Now, while we're on the subject of Arcade1Up, I just want to go ahead and talk about a new product that they are releasing. They have something called the Infinity Game Table coming out. I don't know the exact launch date, but the Infinity Gaming Table, it is an infinity glass. If you guys have seen those glasses that have lights on them and you look into it and it looks like it goes on and on and on. They have this new product coming out, and I actually congratulated the company on this because this was actually a great idea. Because people have been talking about Arcade1Up. Whoa, what are they going to come up with next? And I can see into the future, guys. I'm my own fortune teller. I can see way into the future, and I can tell you that whatever Arcade1Up ever plans to release would have resembled whatever was released in the arcade when we grew up. That's really their business, right? 3/4 scale arcade unit. But This was definitely different. I haven't seen all the games. I do know, I think Battleship is on here. Sorry, Monopoly. And I was a huge fan, or still a huge fan, of the Xbox Live arcade game. It was called Family Game Night. And so this was actually a brilliant idea because a lot of the Arcade1Up 3/4 scale cabinets don't have a lot of replayability as far as getting the whole family involved. And so with this, especially during COVID, just so you guys know, I cover RC cars and a number of other things. All the hobby shops, their business has gone up since COVID hit because people are looking for things to do at home because they can't go to Disneyland, Magic Mountain, and all those other places. And so this was a brilliant idea to have a gaming unit where the family can really get involved and has a lot of replayability. What do you guys think about this unit?
I mean, it's kind of bringing back old school, man. I'm kind of revealing my age a little bit here, but I was born in the mid '70s, so I mean, most of us before playing Atari games with stick figures would play board games with it. You know what I mean? So, it's one of those things. I love Atari. Believe me, I know Jason / Level 1 hates it, but I mean, it's bringing back the old school feel of board games again, except all in one place.
Of course.
I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, I think it's great. I mean, I still play that family game night with my daughter. So, I mean, I'm actually kind of looking forward to it.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, that family game night is really cool. I mean, with all the features and everything that it definitely has to add. I know the family game night that I have, it has Sorry. I know it has... it doesn't have Uno. I know it has Battleship. I think it has Connect 4. So there's a lot of potential here for all these companies, for this company to really capture the people at home right now from Hasbro. So this was a great idea. So,
yeah, especially that there's a lot of kids that only want to use their iPads and such. They only want like technology. They don't want to do anything that seems old or uncool. So sometimes you want to get a kid to play Monopoly with you, and they're like, "Oh, that's a board game. That's not fun."
Right.
But now, when they're using technology to play the exact same game, they might be a little more interested in actually playing.
Oh, definitely. It's perfect. Yeah, it's definitely a definitely a good unit that they're working on for Arcade1Up. Wolfonoz, were there any other topics you really wanted to? What is this? You can return used what? Oh yeah, this guy says you can return used underwear with last night's dinner. I guess at Costco.
You probably can.
I actually used to. Yeah, that you could do that at Walmart too. Return some used socks, underwear, shoes, everything.
Yeah, no,
but they won't take back a used video game, which is ridiculous.
I was just going to say, I mean, people out there don't realize, like you mentioned earlier, how much work goes into these base images.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of people who are more harsh than others. And it's the fact that it does take work to get a lot of it working. It's not just dumping ROMs on a base, thanks to people like Supreme or a team like Supreme and, a community testing stuff for each other, making sure it works, all this other stuff. But yeah, I mean, I just want to tell people straight up, it's a lot of work. I mean, and it is on our free time, and you got to be kind of tolerable about that. But a lot of people also expect you to do everything for them,
right?
And that's just, I mean, that's what Google's for. You can learn how to do it. I mean, I don't mind helping personally, but we all have full-time jobs and families. So,
definitely.
It is what it is.
Yeah, I mean, I take pride in making sure that every single game works on my image. And, there's nothing worse than downloading an image and, a game being on the list that you're excited for. And then when you boot it up, it just goes, you get kicked back to the main menu screen.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
I mean, that's one of my pet peeves. I absolutely hate it. So mostly for like the CD-based games, I make sure that they work before I put an image out.
Yeah.
And,
you know what?
Don't say too much, man. Don't say too much. Someone's writing that down.
That's quite frankly, that's why that's the same principle I have. I mean, I try to make sure, everything works at 98% capacity. We're not going to be perfect.
Guys, stop! You guys are giving too much information, man. Some guys taking notes. You're gonna put that on the freaking bio of the eBay.
No, but
eBay
we're not going to be perfect about it. That's just it. That's my point. It's we do our best as we possibly can. If something doesn't work, then take the initiative to try to make it work.
That's so true. And one of the other things that I definitely want to point out too is, we don't ask for anything, but one of the things I definitely want to point out is because we help make images work. All right, that flat out, we help make images work. I'm putting that out there. And one of the concerns that I've had is that I've seen new companies pop up without images and without base builds. These companies can't put out hardware or accessories. In this case, we're talking about Retropie 4, but yet I guess from my perspective, they send stuff to people who really have no involvement in the process, or they have no involvement in actually making the equipment do what it can do. And so is more or less like they reach they send it to fanboys, okay, the quote unquote term. And what happens is you can't make something work if the people who are responsible for making images and builds don't have the opportunity to test it. What do you guys have any views on that? Have you guys seen any of that stuff that I'm talking about?
Well, one thing that I've learned is anybody who has an open mouth thumbnail is not to be trusted. They're just,
wow.
they're just there just to get the money, just to get the promotional.
The only one I can tolerate regarding with that open mouth thumbnail is Smash JT. He's pretty decent. I've talked to him personally. He seems like a decent guy, but yeah, I mean, I've seen a lot of those open mouth thumbnails, and there are a few in there that are decent, folks, but I agree with Damaso on that though, for the most part.
Right. Yeah, I just think in some cases that you have individuals trying to make something do what it originally wasn't supposed to do. And for those of you guys who don't know, let's go back about a year. What was it? Back in June, July of last year. There were a lot of people in the forums and groups saying Retropie is not going to work for another 6 or 7 months. That's where I'm coming from, okay? If you don't have a base build, I'm talking about Retropie. Obviously, I know there's other front ends and stuff you can use on the Pi device. There's been a lot of work there, and then, of course, the community has grown simply based upon the work that you guys have done. Because the way I see it is, if you don't have a base build, if you don't have an image, you really don't have vendors out there that can really start supplying or offering hardware, because they're going to say, well, if something's not going to be available for the next 6 months, then, what's the point in really starting something if it's not going to work? And so, that's why I definitely want to thank you guys, and the community owes people, like you guys, a lot of debt to helping out, because it helps the community grow, be successful, and prosperous. And so that's just real talk for me, because that's just the way I see it. Damaso?
Yeah, spot on.
No, yeah, I agree 100%. And I also want to make one thing perfectly clear. There are people out there in groups, especially in Retropie Official, that are very grateful for the work that we do. All right, we're not saying that everybody's not grateful and they're all pains in the butt and such.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, it's not to give kind of like a sign that we're crying.
Yeah.
No, definitely not.
Yeah, I mean, we enjoy the work that we're doing, and we know we're doing it for the community. We just want them to know that what we do is for the love of the hobby.
Well, yeah, I was going to say that too. Is I have more people who are thankful than they are, ingrates, so to speak. I mean, more people. I had a guy thank me.
I wish I had
that. In a sense, you do.
No way! You're crazy, man. Everything's hate, man. Oh, you guys took Retropie and you guys ruined it, and you guys did this, and you guys steal all that. And
quite frankly, brother, you gotta let it.
Oh my god, you guys don't get the credits.
Like I've told you personally, you gotta let it roll off your back. Because
we have a credits thing for a reason. We can't list every goddamn name of everything that we've used in every dang video over and over and over again. That's why the Supreme team has a goddamn credit system. You know what I mean?
Well, you got to let it roll off your back, man.
Yeah, I know there's been one incident with one of our members that took something and didn't give credit, but that's on that guy, right? But I'm saying in general, though, we give credit for everything that we've used, right? And we try to make things easier for the end user. Like, for example, the light gun script, we made that, just, to make things easier for an end user. But no, we probably took it from somebody.
I guess my ultimate question is, with Retropie itself, why aren't they implementing these things? Why do they not refuse to update these things? Because it takes someone else to do all these things, and they're not doing it. I mean, they still haven't added certain platforms like, what is it, PC Engine or TurboGrafx 16. They haven't. It's not there.
Right.
It takes someone else to add those things.
Right. So
you got to do it yourself.
Yeah. So for those of you guys tuning in and aren't too familiar with what Retropie really is, it's really bare bones. In fact, from my understanding, the original script that makes your video snaps and box art and stuff work, that was created by a guy named David Marty, and then that was even brought into the official build. That was made by somebody in the community. The video scripts that I've coined the term, it was called Arcade1Up Official. That was made by the Supreme team. That was made by Pie Wizard, and then also Level 1 Online. So as you guys have seen,
Retropie gets even more simpler than that. So Retropie is basically Raspbian OS, a very light version of it, right?
Right.
Emulation station pre-installed. If you download it from the website, right? So it's Retropie. If you download it, it's Raspberry OS with emulation station installed, and then the the GUI or the GUI for installing ROMs. That's all Retropie is. People get confused and think Retropie is its own OS. It's not.
Right.
It's not at all. It's technically, you can download Raspbian OS. That's what it's called now, right? Raspberry OS. It's changed, right? So you can download that, install emulation station, and technically you have Retropie. It just now you have to install all the things manually, right? Or you can download modules, right, which Retropie uses to make it easier for the end user. So basically, it's just to make things easier for an end user. That's what Retropie is. But it is bare bones. Nothing's installed, right? There's no extra scripts like...
All your basic consoles are there. I mean, and everything else. I mean, PC Engine's there. You can literally dump.
It's a great start, though. It's a great starting point, though. Don't get me wrong.
No, it is. I'm not saying it isn't. I'm just saying they don't build on what they have at all. They never have.
Because if you compare like a Supreme build to a Retropie build, people think the Supreme builds are bloated. And yes, I would agree. Yes, it is. But it's for convenience sake for an end user that doesn't want to do everything manually. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and just to let you guys know, when I first started using Supreme V2, my first thought when I compared it, because I downloaded some other images that didn't work. I think some of the first images I tried to download were from VMan and they didn't work on the 3B Plus and stuff. And so when I first used this, I kid you not, I didn't know any of these guys. This was back in May or April of 2018. Yeah. My first thought when I used Supreme V2 was, why isn't this the official base of the community? Because it looked like a computer operating system with all the settings you would typically expect to navigate around it. Like, even if I didn't use them, I had some choices to kind of go through there, because I built my first Retropie unit. I downloaded all the scripts. I found some lame YouTubers that were telling me to install this and do all this, and it looked like crap as far as the menus. And so when I used Supreme V2, I then modified it, added to myself, and that's how you guys saw the Extreme Supreme. That was even by accident how it got released. And so that's why I really just stuck with it, because I don't need all these front ends. I don't need all these Pi images and all these different...
That's really strange, Keel. The reason why Supreme is growing the way it's growing, and it only grows at a certain time. And the time it grows is when a new Pi hardware comes out. For example, the Pi 2, the Pi 3, the Pi 4. As soon as new hardware comes out, the Supreme name grows. And the reason why that is because we're usually the first ones to jump onto the boat and make a fully working ported copy of Retropie. And that's why, like you said, you were looking for images, you couldn't find any.
Right.
Yeah,
And that was at the time where the B plus had just came out. Now you had a lot of images that worked for the B but didn't work for the B plus, and then I didn't know much. I mean, I was familiar with memory cards and stuff, don't get me wrong, but I wasn't sure about corrupted memory cards at that time. So I had a number of issues when I first started. I mean, I kid you not. And so one of the first videos you guys saw me post with Retropie working, you heard me jumping for joy because I was excited, because I was like, man, I went through so much trial and error. That's why I've stayed passionate trying to help everybody get stuff right for the Pi 4.
yeah, and the Supreme Team base is amazing, but it's not official.
Right.
Because that's what I hear. Because it's not official, it's not good enough.
Right, exactly.
And that's why the Supreme Team is also has also thought on making their own, branch. But again, there's just too much, right? There's Recall Box, there's Retropie, and then there's what is the other one called? Batacero S or whatever. Yeah, there's that, right? There's just too many out there. We did try. Kyo did end up trying it. It was Supreme OS, but it's just we don't have. We do this in free time, right? And because we just don't have the time. So what we did is we basically, most people know it now. It's a Supreme Online Toolkit. Believe it or not, we actually made that to be a Supreme installer. So you would type in a URL in your PuTTY, and it would install all the Supreme settings to your Retropie build. But we thought, hey, why not we just build on top of Retropie because it's there already, right? And then add the Supreme Online Toolkit there to give people the power to update their build constantly, because we push updates that are way in advance, right? Like we have a track mode on there, a track mode installer already. We have the PyKiss installer on there. We have the PyMarquee installer on there. We have a bunch of installers on there that are not even available on the Retropie official installer. Right. And full credit goes to the creators, right? Of Track, PyKiss, and all those the scripts, right? We don't take any credit from those guys. Those are, their code. We just made an installer for it to make it easier for, a user, right?
Right. And so, for those of you guys who don't know, the real benefit for having that online toolkit, the main purpose is to prevent having to make so many different images. There are people out there that will come out with an image about 3 or 4 times a week. And so the purpose of the online toolkit was to so the whole purpose of that was to prevent, something's broken or needs a fix. Okay, I got to make another image, because there was no way to update it. And so for me, just so you guys know, one of the purposes that I've really tried to help with either these guys or the Retropie community is help giving people who deserve the actual credit for doing something. Because there are too many reviewers and too many people out there painting their own narrative on either images, builds, and the communities. People take it as gospel, and it is really far from the truth. And you are here listening and talking to some of the guys who are responsible for that. And I can tell you I got a big fat goose egg right in my hand. Nobody, no other reviewer. I think P-Dubs, Wolfonoz was on his show. But for the most part, nobody reaches out to image makers or builders and get the hard-cut truth about how something works. People are literally talking off the top of their head, giving out information that they have no clue about, no understanding about, just to either get views or get some type of attention. And it's not accurate. Because what I would do, as I've started, is, hey, Wolfonoz, Damaso, this is either broken or working. How can I beta test this for you? How, is it working? What can we do to possibly fix it? Or typically, if something isn't working, hey, make mention of that before I do a review. Are you guys getting any of that type of feedback from people, or what?
The Supreme Team itself has its own testing group, right? Like we have our own people that we like test. Like it's just random people that we trust, right? It's just a small circle, because what has happened in the past, when you open your circle too big to people that test your image, it's like, hey, you want to download a Supreme Ultra? Here you go. It's like, oh, geez. And then they get put on, websites, and then it's publicly released. Was it Beta 4 that got leaked out, and then it got confusion started? There was 2 copies of Beta 4 out. Was that what it was?
Yeah, I can't remember.
No, Duo.
Yeah, I
That
think it
guy,
may have been Duo.
Supreme Team. I can't remember who it was. One of the guys in Supreme Team teamed up with a guy. He released it early. I don't want to say names. I know you know who the guy is, Keo.
Mhm.
Released the image early. It wasn't finished yet. So what happened was, because he released a version and then the Supreme Team released a version, they were both completely different. So they had to drop the project completely and move to Pro. Because remember, it was called Pro, and then it was called Ultra. But oh my God, that's why the circles for beta testing and all that, you have to keep the circle small, and it gets people kind of confused, like, oh, something's going on here, something's fishy, right? But no, it's just to keep the leaking away. You know what I mean? It's bad. People
Right.
People like to share.
Yeah, and that's why the Retropie official group on Facebook was started, to create some type of streamline for information so you guys can receive it and not hear a bunch of misinformation, and then it looks like we're starting an argument or something online with you. Whereas, you get some information, you put it out, you have a trusted source. Because for me, when I do videos, I'm actually working with the thing. I mean, I can literally point to you and tell you. Other individuals, that's what I would say, that is third-hand information, because unless they're talking to the image maker or developer, they really don't know.
JNY78 just brought up something about Pixel. Pixel's usually, he pulls no punches with images too. Like, if he doesn't like something or something doesn't work right, he'll tell you.
Oh, yeah.
He's very upfront. I mean, he's like that with products. We all know that.
Yeah, I've talked to Mad Little Pixel quite a few times. I like the guy.
I talk to him all the time.
Yeah, he's very, I mean, I don't know if you guys really know this, but he's very, very business-minded. In fact, when we've had conversations that we've had on the side, right, he knows his stuff, and he does his research. I give him a whole lot of credit for that. Like, even if
people don't know it, but I started cutting my teeth on his images. I talked to him. He's like, "Yeah, man." He goes, "Take it and do what you want with it." And I put out the remixes for him.
Right.
Yeah. See, so My Little Pixel is a great guy. Like, I've seen him showcase a few things. The only pet peeve the Supreme Team had with him, I believe, was there was a weird altercation one time with him, and that some reason More Dirty Gaming is shadow banned from his YouTube channel still to this day. And
yeah. Well,
yeah, there's no mix. There's still no hard feelings about that.
My point with him, though, and mainly is he's a no nonsense kind of guy. I mean,
see, I didn't even know he had a business degree.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't even know he had a business degree, but you could tell
he owned a shop. Like, he's a very nice guy. Like, we have no problem with him, but he is a very nice guy. Supposedly, he owned a shop. I think it was a vape shop, right? I think that's what he said. I think he owned a vape shop, something like that. So he's very business orientated, right?
Yeah.
And that's how you see it on his channel, right? It's very oriented that way. It's a business.
Right. Oh, definitely.
Yeah, Mad Little Pixel and Level 1 online, when they review images, I mean, they know what they're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
And if there's something wrong with it, they'll bring it up without any problems.
Yeah. You know what? In fact, because I think one of the last images, because I know he doesn't do a lot of reviews on Pi stuff too much, but I think the last image he did was Wolfonoz's the Supreme Pro. And so I'm really glad he did it, because I did not have time to do it, because I had saw a previous review on Wolfonoz's image, and I was like, if I didn't know any better, I would have thought that Supreme Pro image Wolfonoz release was crap based upon this particular person's review. And it didn't, it warranted actual thorough review that it was, as far as the work that he put in.
Yeah, that goes back to the fact that, like, we've all talked about.
Yeah, see, the problem is right now, there was a lot of channels reviewing base builds, and they were really good review channels. I'm not going to name the channels, but now it's just rush, right? Oh, this build, blah, 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 this and that, and it's just all miscommunication. They don't even talk to the developer or the guy that made it, and then it's just like, oh my God, what am I listening to here? Well, it's like, it's a B because it's missing this, and I'm like,
an image that doesn't have 1, 2, 3 super crash is automatically a B.
Yeah, this image doesn't have this particular theme, and it took an extra millisecond to download. It's a B minus. It's just, that's the crap you deal with.
That's the grading system I do not like. I do not like it at all, because every build, any base build, any other build that's out there, it is made for a certain person. It's, you know what I mean? It's a hobby thing. It's for fun. It shouldn't be graded, man. It shouldn't be like you put all your hard-earned work into it. You love it. You know, oh, I want to share what I've done to, you know, to the community. And then some guy goes, you know what? I'm going to give it a C minus because you're missing this in here. Why didn't you add the super sweet theme by
Yeah.
It's just like, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, and maybe just to clarify a little bit for you guys not too familiar with how Retropie is, typically when we release an image, I'll be maybe speaking for myself, it has a particular theme, okay? Just giving you guys an example, Supreme V2 on the Raspberry Pi 3B Plus, it would not play the X-Men 6-player game, okay? But if you look at the overall image, it had a nice front end for Cody, everything ran nicely and stuff. Now, when Supreme Unified came out, obviously, just use this as an example, the X-Men 6-player game would work. It ran, you know, fine and everything. But Cody, it didn't. It didn't. The theme that was normally on Supreme V2 couldn't be added to Supreme Unified because of power constraints or optimization. And so somebody may look at that and complain. You have to realize that if something doesn't, it's very hard or nearly impossible to get everything perfectly running on the Pi 4 because you have to code it and make it work. It's not like Windows, like, oh, you have Excel or you have Steam or you have other Adobe programs where a lot of this stuff is going to work in unison. Sometimes with the Pi, one thing is going to work, something else is going to break. You fix something else is going to break. So to get, I would say 98% of things working, that's a flawless image, okay? If you get more than 90% of things really running on Retropie or certain games...
That's a B minus.
Oh, Jesus. That's in the Pi world, if you guys didn't know, that is what I call a perfect image. If certain things running. Now, Super Mario should run if it's on Nintendo. I mean, basic stuff like that. But after that, trying to get other things to work, it takes a phenomenal task, and it takes brilliant guys to make it working. I know another guy in the community who doesn't really get a lot of credit or really isn't acknowledged is Pi Wizard. Pi Wizard puts in a whole lot of work in the stuff. I wish he was on here chatting today or whatever, but he is another guy in the community that puts in a whole lot of work.
Oh, he's very, very talented, man. Like what he does, I know a lot of people don't like what he does, but it's not. Believe it or not, that's nothing what he just does. He does a lot of things to the community that people do not know.
Yep.
Like, a lot of the scripts that are out there now are actually basically made or been made by him. Like, he's actually one of the knowledge guys that I have to teach myself on how to do things, like how to, script. When I started off with Supreme, I didn't know much scripting at all. I didn't know how to script anything. I didn't know how to make a code or anything like that. I was very new. This guy taught me a lot, and then I got taught by other people, of course. But people just don't know, right? They see this guy's name and they associate it with what he does in the background, right? I don't agree with what he's doing. Just because it can cause confusion with other people. But at the same time, the guy is very awesome. He's helped so much in the community. Like, just...
Yeah, the times that I've dealt with Pi Wizard, he's been great. I got nothing bad to say of the guy.
Yeah, me neither, man. I just... I what he does is his business. It's not mine. But, again, he's just a very good guy, man. He helps anybody. Like, even in the groups, someone's needing help, he'll put a link in the description saying, hey, this can help you out. He's straightforward. He doesn't like to play games. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely.
I don't like giving out bad information or false information, especially when it's something that I can't test. Because I had someone this morning ask me about my image, asking if it works on an 8 gigabyte Pi 4. Now, I live in Canada. 8 gigabyte Pi 4 here is like almost $200.
Yeah.
I can't afford to buy another Pi to test it.
You may as well buy an Xbox Series S.
Exactly.
Or the hard drive for it.
I didn't want to give him the wrong information. I didn't want to say yes, and I didn't want to say maybe. So I told him no. And he's like, why not?
Well, and in that case, that's when you guys say, hey, send them to Keo. So I end up having a lot of equipment simply to test it. There is a lot of stuff here that I have that's been solely done just to test, and I don't even have any intention on actually using it because I just like to know. I mean, I love technology and stuff. And so that's why, in the past, I was like, hey, subscribe to my channel. Like, I'm actually doing work over here to help you guys out. And so,
yeah, I actually had one guy message me. He's like, I forgot to mention this to you though, but he messaged me. He's like, has Keo been able to test this on the Pi 4 8GB model? I'm like, test what? Damaso's new image. Isn't he the Supreme Team developer or coder? I'm like, I was like, oh, geez. You know who started that? I can't remember his name, but yeah. And I'm like, these guys are not part of the Supreme. The Supreme Team is everybody. People don't realize that. Many people join the Supreme Team and then leave, and then join and then leave, and then share information and leave. The Supreme Team can be anybody. You'd be shocked it's your neighbor. You know what I mean? It's just a group of guys that get together and build something for the community, and then it's just, and then you have these guys. Oh, you test his hardware yet? Does Keo test his hardware? He's a developer, right? I'm sitting here like,
yeah, you don't have to be a dev to test something to plug it in and see if it works.
Yeah, exactly. But man, it's just like today, since Damaso's image came out, man, the Supreme. I'm not no hate in any way, but
I'm sorry. God. I'm very sorry.
What?
Hey, Damaso, I'm gonna have to send you a bill in the mail, man.
It's like, why doesn't it say Ultra? It says Beta 4, and I'm like, oh my god.
Yeah, I mean, I could say it's Ultra, just so more people can download it, but then
quite frankly, people just want the Ultra base so they can do their own thing with it because they don't want to, do the work themselves.
Yeah, the biggest thing that I've heard so far that people are wanting from it is the marquee, and I think people just wanted to rip it and install it on their own builds because I haven't seen anybody with the marquee script like the Supreme where you can change the media folder of like where your media is being pulled from because everybody has some generic marquee folder, and that's not going to work for a lot of people because we don't have a lot of artistic skills like some people do, like the CRT blast image, right? They had to make an image for every single game. That's very time consuming, right? The Supreme Team, we did it. Yeah, we made our own copy of for the marquee script, right? But to give the choice to a user so they can pull media from box art, from wheel art, whatever, people just want to rip that off and then put it in their build. And I'm not going to say, and some guys going to argue, you guys do the same thing to everybody else, so we're going to do the same thing to you, and it's going to start that whole circle crap again. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and also too, the marquee script was updated. You guys can check out my previous video. I did a couple of videos down. That has been upgraded to include the videos playing while you're surfing through your menu screen. So that was actually my request that I wanted to have up in there. No. Thank you guys.
And I'm gonna tell you guys that looks incredible. That looks really good.
And the best thing about it too is because a lot of people don't know is the version that the Supreme build's using is actually very, very cool. I've noticed a lot of I've tried a few builds out that have the marquee. The CRT build is actually not the very first build to have it. There's actually a few other builds that have the CRT feature added. There was one that originally came out that you needed 2 Pi 3s, and some guy did it with the Pi 4 where you used 2 Pi 4s or a Pi 4 and a Pi 0. And then there was a guy that made an early version of it where you can use your Pi 4 and it was just box art, right? It was very simple, right? But I noticed when they all had the same god dang issue. Green freaking flickering crap all over your god dang screen. Right. For most people, you unplug HDMI 2, your whole screen's covered, right? I'm like, holy moly! You go to your Retropie settings, or you go into your RetroArch, it's all stuck up in a corner. I'm like, oh my god, does no one test this stuff? Like,
yeah, you got to test it, and that goes back to hardware and equipment. You guys we can't, or at least for myself, you can't promise something or showcase it if you haven't actually had the equipment to see if it really works or not. And so I'm really key on that. I mean, I love being factual and actually testing things. And there's a lot of time that is spent testing it to actually do a review, versus somebody burning an image and say, "Hey, here's my review on it." If you don't know all the ins and outs.
It's a hard, it's a hard game to play right now, right? You can't, and that's I don't want to make people agitated, but Supreme Ultra has been done for
Oh Lord,
quite a. I know it's been done for quite a bit now, but the reason why it's not out is because we are waiting for that big, huge update for the OS, right? A lot of people know it's coming. There's an actual.
That's quite frankly why I'm waiting on my. Yeah, that's why
Wolfonoz is actually the one that, kind of got wind of it, which was kind of odd how he beat us to it. But credits where credits due, right? And we're waiting for that update. We don't want to push something out and add it to the online toolkit, causing issues, right? And then also, a week ago, actually, it was done for 2 weeks now. It's been 2 weeks since it's been done, but we keep adding improvements, right? We don't want to put, like, Keo made a video that says 1.5, right? We're at 1.5 right now. But when it comes out to the public, it's going to be version 1.
right?
Right? And so the public's going to see it as. But we're just adding, bug fixes and stuff like that as we go through it.
The biggie right now is the Mesa update drivers that's coming.
Yeah, see, that's one of the ones we're waiting on, too, because that's going to be a huge update, and we're not too sure how the online... Like, I can release the Ultra build today. No problem.
That's what... for basically for the people that don't know yet or they haven't played with any Pi 4 images, all Pi 4 images have tearing video problems right now with games. That's why you're seeing tearing in games, is because these Mesa drivers haven't been updated yet.
Yeah.
So when they're updated, you're not going to have tearing anymore like you do with the Pi 3. The Pi 3 runs great.
Supreme Ultra is pretty dang close to perfect right now without the drivers, but it's a lot of tweaking. There's a lot of unnecessary tweaking with the video smoothing,
right?
Tweaking with the drivers, making custom boot allocations to make it skip certain checks. Like if certain games, if the sound started up before the video started off, it would cut video. And
you can turn on the Mesa drivers right now, but you won't get videos or video snaps. You can hear them, but you can't see them. So that's part of the problem with that. But the games will play, and they're flawless. But as far as videos and screen snaps and everything you get, all the bells and whistles.
Real quick question. So these drivers will definitely improve the Sega Saturn performance, right?
No, not just that. See, Sega Saturn on the Pi, I know this sounds kind of ridiculous to hear, but Sega Saturn can play perfectly on the Pi 4. Perfect.
On the desktop.
On the desktop, but you need to have... There's this driver out there. It's basically like a beta Vulkan driver, say.
Right.
If you use that and Saturn, it's perfectly fine. Most games play. But again, it's also, shaders and stuff too that's causing a lot of
there's still going to be certain Burning Rangers is one of my all-time favorite games for the Saturn, and that's very 3D intensive.
Yeah, see, games like that are very hard to...
Right.
But I on the Ultra build, a lot of people are going to be shocked seeing the performance of Saturn, same as the Damaso image that he just released. They're going to see the improvements too on the games. It's going to be a pretty big difference from his last to what it is now.
Yeah, I mean, I can say that the Saturn on my latest image, the 2D games work great. Yep. I mean, and there's a couple of 3D games I got on there that are also working well, but most 3D are still laggy and slow.
Yep, that's because that's the hardware versus the drivers right now. Once the drivers improve, we're probably going to see some improvement.
Hey, let me ask you guys this while we're talking about Sega Saturn and desktop. So since the Supreme team uploaded the new install for the sinden light gun features, I know I can use it in Emulation Station, but are you able to use those shaders and the drivers on the desktop?
If RetroArch is using the same location, like the same shader folder location, of course.
Yeah.
But I'm just trying to think how I would access it from, let's say, Raspbian OS or from the Pixel desktop with the Sega Saturn emulator.
You'd have to go in there and turn on the shaders itself, right?
I see.
Like, what do
Okay.
you-
Okay.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, each emulator has
Yeah.
your own
But
shaders.
I guess what I'm asking is because since you're more or less in a desktop form now, will the sinden light gun program that runs in the back, like on PC, does that show?
No, it's automatically when you install the light gun drivers, they're installed to the whole Pi. It doesn't just work on Retropie. It's to
Okay.
the whole OS, right?
All right.
It's not the shaders though installed to a directory and within RetroArch. So RetroArch is basically where the shaders are being saved. So if you can go on to, let's say you open up the Sega Saturn. I can't even speak right now. Sorry, my alarm clock's going off. Sorry, I got a phone call and my buzzer went off. So Sega Saturn, right?
Right.
If you use the emulator on the PC, you can go and select your own shaders. So you'd have to go into the RetroArch folder and just select it from there instead, manually.
Okay.
And that's it.
All right. Cool. Just want to clarify.
There's no difference at all. It's
Yeah,
just,
I was just wondering.
The folder location can be weird. But what you can do too is you can also just download it from the official website, just drag it to the desktop.
Right. Yeah, I guess what I was wondering or thinking is, would it possibly look somewhat similar to what the sinden light gun software is going to look like it on PC, like it will on the Pixel desktop, like being able to see the camera and all that other stuff.
Why just make like a 4:3 white border or 69 white border or whatever? Is that what you mean?
No, well, you know, with the PC software of Sinden, you can see the camera features, you can see the X and Y axis, and you can make all your adjustments. I was wondering if it would look the same or somewhat similar on the Pixel.
Yeah, the same thing. It's just like the regular desktop version.
I see. Okay.
You don't have an application though.
I see. Okay.
Yeah, and another thing I think that Supreme is waiting for is the Vulkan drivers for the N64, correct?
Oh yeah. See, a lot of people though.
That's a big.
Uh-oh.
They're very. Oh man, I've been teased myself with this. I have seen N64 run pretty flawlessly on the Pi 3 using Vulkan. The Supreme team posted a link for the driver from that one guy, right? The guy that made it. And then a link to the core for RetroArch that has Vulkan support.
Right.
If you combine those two and play it, N64 is pretty much flawless. It's crazy. As in the Pi 3.
Is that going to work with Mupen 64 next, or just the Mupen 64?
No, it's a core. I'm not sure what the core is, but if you use the core that was shared and Vulkan driver in the Pi 3, N64 pretty much runs flawless right now.
Okay.
All right.
But on the Pi 4, when it comes out, like, these are Vulkan drivers made by some guy, right? Like some engineer or something like that, right?
Vulkan's no joke, man. I use it on the desktop with GameCube, and it runs flawless. GameCube runs flawless.
But could you imagine? Oh, even that, because I haven't tested GameCube yet on the Pi 3. But could you imagine Vulkan official? These are made by the official people. Vulkan drivers on the Pi 4. How well?
Oh yeah.
N64 will run. Even N64, yeah, awesome. But the GameCube and Wii emulator as well is on there right now on the Ultra build, same as Pro. Could you imagine that enhancement from Vulkan?
Not so much with Pi 4, but maybe like a Pi 4B Plus. I'm going to be interested to see what NVIDIA does now that they bought ARM. Now that they purchased ARM, I'm going to be interested to see what NVIDIA does.
That's another huge update, guys. So NVIDIA bought ARM, and ARM makes the chipset for the Raspberry Pi unit. So, I mean, obviously, you guys know NVIDIA does everything. Cards, the graphics cards. That has been
Could you imagine official NVIDIA Shield OS? For the
oh my god! Yeah, you'd be able to play Xbox or something on
it. Hey, don't start spreading rumors, because people are going to be asking.
Yeah, you know what? I'm gonna do a what if
you can know, which is funny, is you can actually go onto the Pixel desktop on your Pi 4 and then load up, Stadia or whatever on the browser, and it works.
Oh, wow. Cool. All right, guys, I think we've been going on for about an hour and 23 minutes now. Any of you have any final thoughts before I close out?
Actually, no, not any at all, but I do have to go, so peace.
Yeah, make sure you guys subscribe to all of our social media. I know Wolfonoz doesn't have a YouTube, but We have
I'm all over the place. So I'm on Reddit. I'm on Discord. I just don't have my own channel yet. I'm working on that at the moment. So
yeah, make sure you subscribe to Damaso's channel over here. His channel is called Tabs3121. Damaso, he's a huge Batman guy. I believe he's on Instagram as well, so you guys can definitely check that out. But essentially, we just wanted to get together, clear out some things. This is probably the first time you've heard all of us speak, together. We talk quite frequently, but we wanted to keep you guys informed about what's really going on in the Retropie community with Retropie. Get rid of any rumors, talk about how we feel about reviews, get some clarifications out there, because it's very important, and we don't want to look like we're policing some stuff, but it's really a disservice to the community, in my opinion, when misinformation is put out and it doesn't come from the horse's mouth. And so that was one of the topics of this conversation today. Damaso, anything in closing?
Yeah, when's Ultra coming out?
Oh, Joe, Ultra comes out when I hit 4,100 subscribers. Yeah, okay.
All right, sounds good. Sounds good.
All right, guys, you guys have a good day. Hope you guys found this informative. Leave a comment or something under the description. But I hope you guys appreciate our time. And we definitely enjoyed the number of you who have listened in today to help you guys out in the community. You guys have a good day. Later.